All right, welcome everybody to Second Tuesday Training, TBRI Toolbox Edition with Taryn Tasker. Taryn is a TBRI practitioner. She is our retention stabilization specialist, and she works out of the Bay County office. We're so excited to have her here with us this evening to share some of the TBRI tools that she has put together for y'all. It'll be easy for you to utilize in your own home. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Taryn.
Thank you, Tricia. Welcome, everybody. I am super excited to be here tonight. As for most of you, I think when you hear about TBRI, it starts you on a journey. And I have been learning about TBRI. And I feel like the more that you learn about it, the more there is to learn. So if this is just your beginning and you have never heard of TBRI before, that's totally fine. You're in a perfect place. And if you have a basic knowledge of TBRI, or you even have an extensive knowledge, this is also a good training because we can always learn more about this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about things we do to get through the day. Things we do, habits we have, rituals that we use to get through the day. Now you can unmute and share if you'd like. That will just make my whole night, or you can feel free to put it in a chat. But what are some habits, rituals, practices, etc. that you use to get through the day or to wind down from the day? What are they? What are
I drink Mountain Dew.
Yes. Caffeine is always an appropriate ritual to get through the day. Anybody else? Yep, Kathy Harkis got that Diet Mountain Dew.
Doing what I'm doing right now.
What are you doing right now, Sophia? What are
I'm
you
playing
doing?
in my yard.
I like it. I like it. Weed pulling therapy. Most definitely. Well, I know that I don't start any day without a quiet cup of coffee. And sometimes that means, since I have 3 kids who are 5, 3, and 2, sometimes that means I have to have multiple cups of coffee before I actually get one that's quiet. But there's always at least one quiet cup of coffee. And so, just like there are things that we do to get through our day that help us be us in our full awesomeness, there are things we can do to also help our kids be their full awesomeness too. So in case you do not know about TBRI, I did want to give you guys just a quick definition of what it is. TBRI is an attachment-based, trauma-informed intervention that is designed to meet the complex needs of vulnerable children. TBRI uses empowering principles to address physical needs, connecting principles for attachment needs, and correcting principles to disarm fear-based behaviors. While the intervention is based on years of attachment, sensory processing, and neuroscience research, the heartbeat of TBRI is connection. So as I mentioned before, my TBRI journey has been extensive. It started when a brand new foster parent and I was staring into the face of a child who had been screaming for 3 hours. And I was Googling, how long do children have a temper tantrum for? Like texting my foster parent mentor, who was Kathy Harkis, and saying, do I need to take her to the ER? Like, this can't be normal. Like, I have no idea what to do. So somehow we made it through that 2-month placement that felt like it was 4 years. And after we were done, I decided that I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I'm willing to do this. I wanted to help these kids, but I have zero idea of how to help them. And so that's when I remembered the book that they suggested we read in QPT, called The Connected Child by Dr. Karen Purvis. And that's when I started. That's how my TBRI journey started. So a few months ago, I actually completed TBRI practitioner training, which was a whole other level of just awesome TBRI knowledge. But I'm excited to share some of that with you guys today. Full disclosure, I want to tell you that I am not, if you need TBRI Toolbox to be taught by the person who does TBRI perfectly, in her home, you're gonna have to find somebody else because that is not me. The thing I like about TBRI is that there is a lot of grace involved, not just grace for our kids, but grace for ourselves as well. So now, I mentioned before that TBRI is a journey. There's lots to unpack. There's lots of layers. There's always something new to learn. What we want to do tonight is we want to give you some things that you can implement quickly and easily into your schedule, and you can just start doing them. We're going to go over, we have 9 tools to go over, and I don't want you to like sit there and think that, oh gosh, now I have 9 things I have to remember. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast or the last time I washed this pile of clothes. Full disclosure, I'm on my 3rd time cycling clothes through a washing machine because I keep forgetting they're in there. So they haven't made it to the dryer yet, which broke this morning. So we're going to have to wash them again. Anyway, so I don't want you to feel pressured that you have to implement all of these things at once, because that's not realistic. These are tools that you can start incorporating one at a time as they fit into your life and your routine. And then you can add more as you can. It's really important to remember, and I'll probably say this 1,000 times, it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Foster care, parenting, foster parenting is not a sprint. It's a marathon. We're in it for the long haul. So our first tip, and probably one of our easiest to implement and one of our most important, is hydration. Hydration, drinking water. Did you know that by the time we feel thirsty, we have lost 10% of our brain's capacity to function, and some of our excitatory neurotransmitters have already spiked? For our kiddos who often teeter on the edge of balanced neurochemistry, dehydration can greatly impact their ability to regulate. So how do we get our kids to drink more water? Because I think most of us have probably said to our kids, you should drink more water, but those little stinkers don't always do what they're told, right? So I want to give you a couple practical things, because if you're anything like me, I like to know why I should do something, but I also want to know practical steps to actually make it happen, right? Because when the rubber meets the road, if we can't get our kids to do it, then it's not super helpful information. So here are a few ideas we can start incorporating hydration more into their day. You can take them to the store and have them pick out their own special water bottle or cup with a straw. Always lead by example. I found this one to be really, really helpful. When I have a big cup of coffee, which I have already confessed, that is usually several, you can say things like, I'm going to have this big cup of coffee, so I'm also going to drink this big cup of water. And when you start modeling that for the kids, then they want to drink more water. I have found that my kids always want my water bottle. It doesn't matter which water bottle we bought them that has their name on it. They want my water bottle. So the way I get my kids to drink water is I start drinking out of a water bottle. And they're like, I want that one. And then I drink water out of their water bottle. It might be suspect, but this is what we do. And it works because the kids are drinking water. You can also add flavoring, because sometimes water is boring, right? You can add, there's lots of different natural flavorings that you can add. You can add fruit. It says edible flour. If you can find an edible flour, go for it, man. Just do the thing. Let them set a goal of ounces. If you have a kiddo that's really competitive and is a very goal-oriented kid, then let them set a goal and help them keep track. And then you can celebrate when they meet that goal. It's always good to make sure you leave the house with a water bottle. I have little kids, and if you have little kids, sometimes it's really hard to remember all of those water bottles, because usually if we leave with 4 water bottles from a house, we're going to come back with 2 on a good day, right? So we're like, where's the water bottle? So what I started doing is I have one of those big, ginormous, like really aggressively ugly water bottles that's just ginormous. And I take that, and I always have a few little plastic cups in my car. They're just like little cheapy Walmart cups. And I keep those with us. So then when the kids inevitably are like, I'm thirsty, right? And they've already lost their water bottle for the 5th time, and so you've sworn that you're never buying another one, you have these little cups that can stay in your car, and then you can go ahead and get them water that way. This last one, I thought was ridiculous the first time I read it, and I was surprised at how well it works with my children, because if you have kids, you know that kids really like to talk about their bathroom stuff, right? They want to talk about their pee. They want to talk about their poop. It's just like natural little kid conversation. I'm not sure why, but it's a hot topic at my house. So we did not make a chart for hydration, but we did start saying things like, if my peed and it was really, really yellow or whatever, we might need some more water. And so it started to become a thing in our house. And so the kids can judge, really, and my kids are little, they're like 5, 3, and 2. They know if they need more water just based on this simple thing. So I know it seems a little crazy, and I know it seems a little like weird or gross. I'm sorry if it does, but it really does work. So encourage them to look at their feet. All right. Our next tool for your TBRI toolbox is snacks. Everybody likes snacks, right? I like snacks. Okay. Snacks or nutrition. So many children who come from hard places have experienced hunger or food insecurity. We have to establish first that there are some kiddos that have complex needs, and these are going to have to be addressed by their by a doctor or a pediatrician. But that being said, snacks and snacks built into the day are a good habit to start with your kiddos. So a good rule of thumb is to offer a snack every 2 hours to support blood sugar and increase felt safety. Some ideas for implementing snacks: take a special trip to the store to choose healthy snacks. I wanted to say, because this came up in a QPT class recently, that some people were concerned that the kids, or I'm sorry, a Fostering 301 class, that the kids only wanted junk food. And I want to encourage you to take steps towards healthy eating. So when children first come into your home, understand that they may not have had a lot of exposure to healthy snacks. So it might be more common for them to have very preservative heavy packaged snacks. That's okay. Our goal here is to create felt safety. It's not necessarily to make sure that they're eating in such a way that would make Dr. Oz proud. No, we're just looking right now for meeting a need. And so as you do that, encourage them. You can encourage them to pick out healthier snacks by doing things like taking them to the store and letting them pick it out. When they've picked it out, they have a little bit more ownership and maybe more inclined to try something that they haven't tried before. Always, it's a great idea to have some kind of basket, drawer, tub, whatever you have to keep snacks in, that are always a healthy option for your kid. For ours, that is cereal bars, that is what it changes. Sometimes it's nuts, sometimes we have crackers, things like that, little goldfish crackers, and that is something that the kids always have access to. Building snack time into the day. These can also serve as transitions from one activity to the next, and can also be a connecting time for you and your kids. The next two that we're talking about are choices and compromises. Now, when we're talking about choices and compromises, we're really talking about sharing power. And so the ways we share power with our kids is through choices and compromise. So oftentimes the children in our care did not have authority figures who provided safe and appropriate care, or at least not consistently. This leads to children relying on their own wits to survive. Once in their homes, this instinct is very difficult to disengage. One way we can help them see that we are trustworthy caregivers is by sharing power through providing choices. Important to note, it's your power to share. Typically, the biggest backlash we get when we say things like this is that, well, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, right? No, it's your power to share. You're not giving them power and they're taking it. It's your power to share. And we do that in a very structured way, so that it's teaching them good ways to negotiate. So Practical steps for choices. Give children no more than 2 options. And it really helps, especially with little kids, but not just with little kids, sometimes also with grown-ups, if you use 2 fingers to give them a visual. So, and then be ready to allow a third if it's reasonable. We'll talk more about that in just a second. It's also really important that these choices should not contain a right or a wrong choice. So it can't be, well, you pick up these toys or you can just go to bed right now. Or, well, you can eat that broccoli or you can have nothing. No, these aren't the kinds of choices. Those are the choices that we got as kids, right? But those choices don't necessarily work with our kiddos who have experienced this kind of inadequate care that they've experienced. So it needs to be like, if you want them to eat a vegetable with their dinner, would you like broccoli or would you like carrots? Or if they need to get clean, would you like to take a shower or would you like to take a bath? So both choices accomplish the same goal, right? You've not changed the goal, okay? The goal wasn't suddenly changed to, oh, well, you don't have to shower and you can just, smell like a circus animal. No, no, you're accomplishing the same purpose, but just sharing some of that power, that decision-making power. You should contain 2 options or a third if your kids are turkeys. When my kids are being difficult, I call them turkeys. You can think about that. I call it endearing. Some people might not, but they're turkeys when they're being rotten. So that both the caregiver and the child can be happy with. So they need to be choices that you can support and that you are okay with as their caregiver. You don't want to budge from the choices, but if the child wants to ask for a compromise, allow it. I was going to do a little like practice time right now for choices, because I know sometimes people get a little hung up on giving kids choices, because this is typically not how we're parented. And so it feels really counterintuitive. But Tricia, if it's okay with you, can we save that for the end? Okay, perfect. We'll move on. So we talked about choices, and now we're going to talk about compromises. And compromises are another way we can share power. And it goes hand in hand with giving choices. So children who experience neglect often lose their voice. They don't have the basic trust that if they voice their needs, that those needs are going to be met. This trust is the basis for secure attachment. And when it doesn't exist, children can believe that they must use control and manipulation to get their needs met. Any of us that have parented any children ever know that kids are good at manipulating. They are good at trying to getting their needs met through any means necessary. What we want to do is disengage that fear response to let them know that we can be trusted. And this is another way that we can help disarm that fear response. Some key factors to remember for compromises to be successful. You as the caregiver are still in charge. Remember, it is your power that you're sharing, okay? Children have to practice using respectful tone and language. Easier said than done, right? Sometimes we'll utilize another tool that we're going to discuss in just a few minutes if your children are not asking for compromises in a respectful tone. Allow children to offer a different choice and share power. If a child responds with an unrealistic compromise, respond with an alternate option. It can be very easy, I know, because I may or may not have done this before. When you offer a child a compromise and they respond with something either really sassy or ridiculous, you're like, well, fine then, we just won't have this compromise. No, that's not what you want to do. You want to have your backup other solution and another alternate option that accomplishes the same purpose, okay? It's also important to remember that children who have flipped their lid are not in the place to entertain a compromise. So with my little kiddo who had been tantruming for 3 hours, she wasn't in a place where she could engage a compromise, okay? It was not the time. We were just going to calm. We're not going to try and compromise anything. The goal here is to stay connected and assure them that we hear their need and not get in a power struggle. Sometimes compromises are not an option, but many times we say no too quickly. The word no can feel like a survival threat to a child who has experienced neglect. This was a really, really hard one for me because I had a really hard time offering compromises to kids. It was completely not how I was raised, and it felt wrong. And someone asked me one time if I was trying to teach my kids or if I was trying to control them. And that really stung because I was like, oh, I think I'm trying to control them. And that's why I have this problem with offering compromises, because I just want them to do what I want them to do, the way I want them to do it. And in some ways, that's unrealistic. And so when we offer compromises, we show kids how to negotiate their needs and that we are reasonable people with whom you can negotiate. I wanted to put a real life example in here of what a compromise can look like. I'm Taryn, in case you didn't know. Taryn, would you like broccoli or carrots with your dinner? Those stink. I want Cheetos, says Turkey 1. I say, Cheetos are really yummy, but that's not a healthy side for dinner. Would you like a compromise? Turkey 1. Yes, I would like a compromise. Taryn, great using your words. What compromise do you want? I want broccoli with cheese for dinner and Cheetos for my snack later. That's a great compromise. You'll have broccoli with cheese now and Cheetos for a snack later. Now, I can tell you the first time we instituted or tried to use compromises, this is not the way that looked. This is not the way that looked. For one, I may have had to guide them a little bit in the compromise and how to make the compromise, because their compromise is I'm dumb and they want Cheetos, right? Okay, well, no, that's not what we're going to do. What is something that you would like to have that's healthy for dinner? So sometimes you need to guide them a little bit until compromises are more a part of their language. Okay. Physical activity or sensory activity. This was a ginormous saving grace for the Tasker household. Most kids, even older kids, are not aware of a physical need they have, like water or a snack, and benefit from reminders, just like us, right? In the same way, sometimes children who are becoming dysregulated need to do something physical or meet some sensory need to help them regulate. And they say you should engage in a physical or sensory experience every 2 hours. We were good with snacks and we were good with water in my house, but those jokers were bouncing off the walls constantly. I have a 5-year-old girl and 2 boys who are 2 and 3. And so there's a lot of activity in my house. And we couldn't ever get them to disengage in the evening. It was like, I know they had a nap at school, but they're still coming home with all of this energy and they never want to lay down, and nothing ever calms them down. And so we were pushing bedtimes that were like 9-10 o'clock. And we were exhausted. They were exhausted. Nobody in the house was happy. And someone told me one time, they're like, well, on the days that things have worked and they've gone to bed, what do you do? I was like, well, usually it's the days we've gone to the park because they're tired. And I was like, but the park's a whole thing, we have to get in the car and we got to go to the park and it's a whole, or we have to do all this and I'm tired at the end of the day. And I realized that I was going to be tired no matter what. So I can either use my tired to take the kids outside and to burn off some of that energy, or I can use my energy trying to get them to go to bed at night. So kids really need a lot of engagement. And sometimes in our house, this looks like the kids throwing all the pillows off of the couch and just jumping on them for a while. That's okay. Maybe that's not okay in your household, but you can get creative with it and let them engage in some kind of physical or sensory need or experience. Jumping on a trampoline while you clap and count. Listen, there's those little, $40 teeny trampolines, little exercise trampolines with the bar on them for little kids. Those are great. Deep breathing. So maybe your kids just need to calm down. Maybe they're having a really anxious time after a visitation or something like that. Deep breathing is really good. Some ways to help teach them deep breathing, because most kids are going to look at you like you're crazy if you start just, let's breathe, you can do things like, hey, I have this bowl of soup right now, and we're going to blow on this bowl of soup. What do you want in your bowl of soup? My little kid, my little guy, Jaquez, made ice cream soup yesterday, and it was very hot. We had we had to cool it off for a very long time. But blowing your soup, cooling off hot chocolate, all of those are really good ways to teach kids how to do deep breathing and help them to learn to self-regulate. Chair sit-ups or floor push-ups, also really good for getting out some of that excess energy. How is your engine running? There's a whole thing that we can teach you about helping kids learn what it looks like to be dysregulated and to be regulated by using an engine plate. And they make it out of a paper plate, and you could say like you're either running really hot, or you're either running really slow, or this is a great way to get kids to start thinking about mindfulness. Dance parties. I had a doctor's appointment with a kiddo yesterday, and she had to sit for a long time. It's one of those doctor's appointments where it just takes forever. You're in the lobby a long time, you're in the room waiting a long time, So by the time we got to the car, she is literally bouncing off the walls. So in the parking lot, before we stepped off the sidewalk, I said, all right, 30-second dance party. And I just started dancing like a crazy thing, and she thought it was hilarious, and so she did it too. But it was just a way to help her get out some of those wiggles that she had from sitting in the doctor's office for so long. All right, I promised that we were going to talk about this before, so now we're going to talk about it. Redos are fantastic. Redos are great for kids, and redos are great for adults because we are all humans. And I've told you before that I do not do TBRI perfectly. We all make mistakes because we are human caregivers. They haven't perfected cyborg caregivers yet, so they got us as humans, and we make mistakes. So redos are good for everyone. Redos are a great, simple tool to let a child or their parent redo a behavior the correct way. So here's another example. This is featuring Turkey 2. Turkey 2 burst into the room shouting, "Give me a snack, I'm hungry." Mom says, "Whoa, Nellie, let's back up and try that again with respect." And you want to say that in like a playful kind of sing-song voice so the kids know that they're not in trouble. Whoa, Nellie was stolen straight from Dr. Karen Purvis, who always says, "Whoa, Nellie," when she's dealing with dysregulated kids. Turkey 2 repeats, "Can I have a snack, please?" Mom, that was so great. Great asking with respect. Yes, I will make you a snack. So instead of saying, "Hey, you don't talk to me like that," which if your kids are anything like mine, means they're going to double down, and now we're just going to have a tantrum. So they don't get their snack, already not been able to use this one tool. Now you're mad as the caregiver. So redos are great. Now, maybe a kid came in and said, "Give me a snack, I'm hungry." And Mom, because I was dysregulated and tired, and I said, "I don't care, I'm tired too." Hold on a second. Mommy needs a redo. That's not what I wanted to say. And then you could say, "Hey, could you ask that with more respect? Can I have a snack, please?" And then go from there. So redos are really good for kids because it teaches them the correct way, and they help develop that muscle memory for the behaviors that you're trying to teach them. But they're also useful for grown-ups too. And when you model it, your kids are going to model that too. It's going to speak to them. Okay, scripts. When children are dysregulated and in survival mode, their communication skills are diminished. They have lost access to the part of their brain that helps them formulate words and ideas. Scripts are short phrases that are easy to remember. Hallelujah, easy to remember. None of us have the brain power for anything long. Stay in the moment and teach life lessons of values you are wanting to instill. And scripts can be easily paired with redos. I'm going to give you some script examples, but this is an exhaustive list. And you can develop your own scripts that are teaching the values that you're wanting to show your kids. So common ones are with respect, use your words, no hurts. We say this about 37,000 times in the Tasker household right now. Stick together, gentle and kind, who's the boss? Gentle hands, listen and obey, finish your task and with permission and supervision. Okay. Connection time. This is a picture of me with Turkey 1, and I want to tell you a little story about COVID and quarantine land. Okay, so when we were in the middle of quarantine, as many of you were, my husband actually had a job where he could go out. So it was me at home with the kiddos, with 3 toddlers, or 2 toddlers and an infant. And I decided, because everyone was spiraling out of control, mommy included, that it would be a great idea to institute a calm down corner. So I ordered this stuff online, and I got a beanbag chair and a soft, cushy rug, and I had the books and the charts, and we had this beautiful little calm down corner. It was glorious. And the first time I tried to put a kid in the calm down corner, they ripped all that stuff all the way off the wall. And it was the tornado corner. Then it was no longer a calm down corner. So anyway, the calm down corner wasn't a great success in the Tasker household, but still to this day, my daughter will say, "Mommy, can you come sit with me in the calm down corner?" And it's not because she was impressed by the calm down corner. It's because she didn't want the calm down corner. She didn't want to look at the charts and see which animal she should exercise she should do to become more regulated. She wanted time with me. And all of our kids, even when they ask for it in not the most gentle, loving ways, are wanting connection time with us, their caregivers. And so I wanted to share that story with you guys, because I think it's really, really important for us to remember, because all of us are helpers, right? We're people that want to accomplish something. We want our kids to feel safe. We want them to feel strong. We want them to feel loved. And so we do all these things. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in the things we're doing, we forget that what they really want is connection time with us. And connection time is the next tool in your TBRI toolbox. So a daily practice, I know that sounds overwhelming, but stick with me, okay? A daily practice of entering your child's world completely for 5 to 10 minutes. No cell phones, no siblings, no distractions, just you and your child spending time together. Playing pretend games, building Legos, drawing together, playing video games, watching a child's favorite show, no teaching, guiding, or correcting, and then using good eye contact, safe touch, behavior matching, and praise. I know for some of us that have more than one child, this can seem completely overwhelming. It might seem overwhelming if you have one child, because you're like, they're never going to shut off after 5 or 10 minutes. This is going to be a 1 hour connection time that we have every day, and I don't have time for that. I actually saw where someone put this into practice, and they said it's a 2 to 3 minute ritual they have with their kids. And it is as simple as kiddo is sitting at the table having a snack, you sit down and you have the snack with them. Or my kiddos like to watch bedtime shows, like as they calm down before they get into bed. And so that is a really good opportunity for us to have some connection time. They tell me about their characters or what's going on, things like that. So don't worry so much about what the connection time looks like, and just have that one-on-one time with the kids. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it doesn't need to look like anybody else's. Just that time where you know that you have connected with your kiddo. It means a lot to them. Okay. Our last tool that we're going to talk about today, and probably one that is the hardest for me personally, and I think one of the ones that we overlook the most, and that is self-check-in. As a caregiver, we must be aware where we are. Do I need water? Do I need a snack? Am I in a place to handle this the way I want to? There are some days and there are some moments where it is better for me to not engage with the behavior than it is to engage. And I say that to say, sometimes mommy is not in a place to be calm. And so if mommy's not calm, I can't help them be calm. And that's the whole goal of this, right? To help them learn how to regulate. They can't do that if I'm dysregulated. So there's lots of different ways. There's 1,000 things out there about caregiver mindfulness. There are great apps. I love the app. It's called Headspace. It's a great tool for teaching mindfulness. I found it to be really helpful. And I also found this stop method. I wanted something short that you could just kind of remember. Okay. So the stop method is to stop and pause, wait a few seconds before responding to your child, take a few deep breaths. I like how they say a few and not one, because I'm not ready after one deep breath. And then it says observe, notice and pay attention with curiosity, which means no shame, no judgment, to your own thoughts, your own sensations, and your own emotions. See where you are, and then proceed. Return to whatever you're doing, responding to your child with a clearer, calmer mental state. And I think it's so important, because the whole goal of TBRI is for kids to feel safe, and we help them feel safe when we're in a calm place. And if we're not in a calm place, then we can't give them that. So I highly encourage you, step away, do what you got to do, take care of yourself, and then get back to your kiddos. Then I wanted to end with, again, it's a marathon, guys. It's not a sprint, and it's a long marathon. It's not like one of those 4 laps around the track. It's like one of those let's run across country marathons. So pace yourself. And I also didn't want you guys to feel like you had to remember everything tonight, because if you're like me, you're not going to, right? We're not going to remember everything that I talked about. So I've made this little infographic, and we'll email it to you, or Trisha can email it to you, that has these things in it. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but we feel like it's a good few tools to get started helping your kiddos. I'm done, Trisha. We have questions?
All right. Did any of y'all want to ask any questions before I stop the recording? All right, I'll go ahead and start in the recording now, and then we'll have some question and answer time.